Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome on to another edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast, Season 2, Episode 24, and the New England Patriots back on form again. Another loss to the schedule, 28-22 to the LA Rams. I have got Kieran and I have got Joe with me this evening. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
All good, all good. Joe, I think you're on mute.
I see.
I can see you. I can see your lips moving.
Ventriloquist, mate. Ventriloquist. Yeah, all good, man. Apart from the Patriots again, absolutely pooping the bed. Or the defense pooping the bed.
It was more the defense pooping the bed on this one, but yeah, we'll get more into that. Another one of these moral victory type of defeats, really, and I'm just getting sick to the back teeth for them. Before I get cracking on with the show, guys, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you gronk spike the subscribe button, you tell all your friends, follow us on all our social media platforms, and follow the podcast on Spotify and the Sports Social Network as well. We are about 14 subs away now from hitting 50, and we have said once we hit 50 subs, we'll be doing a giveaway for some new merch that we have got coming up very, very soon. So please make sure, if you want to be in with a chance to win, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 50 subs before the end of the season, shall we? Well, we've got like 7 games left. So 6 or 7 games. Yeah, about 6 games left. So like yeah, surely we can get 14 subs after 6 weeks, or 7 weeks rather, surely. Anyhow, let's crack on with it. So obviously the Patriots lose 28-22 to the Rams. We'll start with the good points first, because the rest of it is just going to all go pretty much downhill from here on out. Kieran, we'll start with you. Drake Maye, career game for him. 282 yards passing, 30 completions he had. He threw for 2 touchdowns. Didn't throw any. He threw 1 pick, but it was at the end, and we'll get into that later on. Talk us through his game, mate, because from what I was watching, he keeps getting better and better every week.
Yeah, I think that's all we want, is some encouragement week on week, and I think we're getting it on a regular basis now. I did see a tweet. I should have bookmarked it and read it word for word, but the crux of it was, over the past few weeks, we've seen different sides to Drake Maye's game. So against Houston and other games, we've seen the arm talent. That's never been questioned at all. We know he's got a good arm talent. Against Tennessee, we saw what he can do out of structure with his legs. This week, we show what he can do in rhythm, on time, within structure, throwing with anticipation. I just think he's exceeding expectations. And whilst he's not good enough yet to be able to make a bad team look good, he is by far the best thing on our team. And once he is surrounded by better players, we will start to see him flourish. I am convinced of it. You are seeing a lot of praise now from a lot of people around the league about him. Sean McVay called him a stud. Other coaches are talking him up. Other analysts in the league, like, wow, I was majorly wrong. Like, I think it was Dan Orlovsky said, like, he was a major advocate for he shouldn't play at all this year. And now he's like waxing lyrical week after week about how good Drake Maye has been. It just gives encouragement that once we sort out the surrounding talent, he's going to be really good. Like, we've got our guy. We just need to support him now.
No, absolutely. No, it's understandable that we're growing tired of moral victories, okay? But by and large, this was the best offensive performance of the season. And I think, and it's also through Alex Van Pelt's group as well. He had a few trick plays up his sleeve, which we'll get into later on. So I'll just give you two the tiny bits of what Maye had. The third overall picks set season high passing for 282 yards, 30 completions, EPA per player plus 0.27, drop back success rate of 63%, and completion percentage of over expectation, which was plus 11.2. Based on what I was watching, Maye had around about 9 plus plays and 4 minus plays. He was practically flawless for about 58 minutes. He made some really, really good throws. One of the best throws I think he did was he diagnosed and exotic pressure by the Rams defense. The Rams, they ran what they call a creeper scheme, where 2 defenders drop off the line of scrimmage while an off-the-line defender blitzes. Maye knew the blitzer was a free runner as he stared down the barrel while subtly drifting to his right to buy time. And he would place the blitz with the ball by finding Demario Douglas on a shallow cross for 28 yards, which was a pretty brilliant throw. His quick decision-making was really good, and his reading coverages are so advanced for a first-year QB, and that wasn't one of the drawbacks that we saw him that we saw him in college, because he was very quick at actually reading a defense and actually getting that ball out very quickly. So there was no issues with that. Joe, what about you? What was your feelings on Drake watching that?
I mean, again, for me, it's a career game. Drake Maye has now already announced himself into the league, I think, but I think showing the performance shows that he belongs at this level, and he's going to be at this level for a long time, like you say, as Kieran was saying, like with the praise coming from everyone. And I've seen an interesting stat as well that pretty much just sums up the Patriots so far. So with NFL teams at home in games that ended in regulation since 2005, with over 375 all-purpose yards, with over 37 minutes of possession, and with over 100 net passer rating, there's been 113 games before Sunday. 112 games before Sunday. The records of the teams in them games was 112-0. Which brings it back round, and again, to what I think has been our fragility the last few weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks perhaps now, is the defense, and the play calling on defense. There's just all over the place, and I don't know. Obviously, I think you've got Covington, who's the DC. Obviously, you've got Mayo, who's defensive-minded coach. You'd like to think, based on his previous, and it's bewildering to me that our number one cornerback, who's arguably the best cornerback in the league right now, lined up, I think, on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think it was 7 or 8 times throughout the whole game. And it's just bewildering, considering our secondary just got absolutely torched.
So one of the questions on Gerard Mayo's press conference was on the decision to play Christian Gonzalez on the boundary, but as the game progressed, they were scoring with Kupp and Nacua. What the logic was behind keeping him on the boundary versus mixing up a little bit more, in which Mayo responded, and I don't usually want to critique what coaches or coordinators say during press conferences, but this answer rattled my cage. We just thought that was the best thing to do. It's a mix of man and zone. We thought that was the best thing to do. Okay. That was the best thing to do, was it? Okay, well, I've got some facts for you, which you're not going to like, guys. So the Patriots played man-to-man on 16 of LA's 27 dropbacks. Christian Gonzalez covered Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua on 7 of the 16. Rams passing with Gonzo on Kupp or Puka, 4 of 7, 36 yards, 33% success rate. Rams passing with Gonzo on other receivers, 6 of 9, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, 66 success rate. So go back to the transcript again. So we just thought that was the best thing to do. How many top receivers has Christian Gonzalez got in his cell?
All of them.
More than half a dozen.
Yeah. It's like you say, you can't argue. I think, again, it's the disappointing fact of that game wasn't a game that the Rams won as much as we lost it, especially on defense, because we just completely and utterly shat the bed yet again on defense, and it's just not what you want to see, or not what you'd expect from someone like Gerard Mayo's team. And obviously, just the play calling for me was I just didn't get it at all. I just really didn't understand it. Like you say, it's saying that they thought it was the best decision to play Gonzo outside. You cover the most dangerous person on the field, whether that be whoever's lining up in that formation, whether that be Cooper Cup, whether that be Puka Nakua.
Yeah, I would
And
have said. Go on,
we
Kieran.
used to see back in the day that you think about the time, around about the time we won the last Super Bowl, like you'd see Gilmore, say when we played Kansas City in those big games, Gilmore would be on Kelsey, and then they would use, John Jones or JC Jackson with safety help on Tyreek Hill. So like you double one guy, and then you'd have 1v1 with your best corner.
You
Now
put the safety
that
over
could
the
have
top.
easily, you could have easily achieved that. You could have put Gonzo on Cooper Cup and then doubled Puka Nakua with John Jones and safety help. Because other than that, who have they got? DeMarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be frightening you. So
Here's the thing. I'll say this, okay. Belichick, obviously he's been and gone. But what was Belichick's one of the main mantras that he always said? We're going to take away your first and your second weapon. If you can beat us with your third and your fourth, well done. That you get a lot of praise for it. But his main goal is to take away your wide receiver 1 or take away your tight end 1. Get rid of your best weapon and let you throw to your others because they're not going to be as good as the real target. And again, it comes to situational football. And once again, Gerard Mayo hasn't worked it out. DeMarcus Covington last week, we actually praised for what he done against Chicago. There's no praising him this time around because some of the play calling that he made was absolutely shambolic. The amount of blitzing that we done in this game. Now, listen, I don't mind the defense blitzing every now and then because you know what? Sometimes you need to get the pressure on the quarterback because we were barely laying a lick on Stafford at all game, okay? But here's why I will put to this, okay? Matt Stafford versus the blitz in week 11 against us, right? 12 of 17, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, passer rating of 152.
Yep.
If you're blitzing a rookie QB, it would actually make life a lot easier for you because they can't quite read defenses and they could be playing happy feet in the pockets on. But Matthew Stafford, he's read more zero blitzes than I've had hot porridge. He was being blitzed a lot of the time in Detroit, so he knows what's coming down the pipe. He can work out.
He's a veteran. He's 36. He's seen it all before. Yep. And that's the thing. He's just going to take those easy layups, and they were easy layups for a lot of the game. And this is why last week, people might not have agreed with me last week, but that's why I said just to calm down a little bit on the praise after the Chicago game. Yeah, the defense was great against Chicago. We got 9 sacks. We held the Bears to 3 points, and they played much better this week against the Packers. But so much of that was Chicago shooting themselves in the foot and Caleb Williams running into sacks than was more on us. So they made us look better than we were. So that's why I was just a little bit reluctant to go, oh my God, the defense were amazing, because I think that was a lot of that was self-inflicted by Chicago. So yeah, this week it was bad. Like, we didn't generate any pressure. I can understand to a certain extent because a couple of players are missing. You're not going to get much from Barmore. Like, it's his first game back in God knows how long. He's practiced once since July. Then you've got Ngakwe, who played 14 snaps, I think. He's only just joined the team. So you're down pass rushers, and then you're getting exposed on the back end. I mean, John Jones had a rough game. I think he was in coverage for 3 of the 4 touchdowns. Like, that was a real bad day. I'm going to
stick this out there right now. He is not a CB2. He is not a CB2. He's a slot corner.
He's a slot corner, yeah.
He's a slot corner, and if Doug goes over the top, it will help him. I think this is why we got an activation in the week of Alex Austin. He's coming back now, so that might be. And he was to the back end of last year. He was actually doing pretty well. So
he was, yeah.
It's going to need a bit of help there, and that might loosen up Marcus Jones to play a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. But we'll take it from there. So the play in question with regarding of the game-ending interception, okay? Hang on, no. There's one more thing we'll do before we get onto this one, okay? So again, there was another one in the transcript, okay, regarding of so I don't know if you know, it was in the 4th quarter, we got the ball on the 10 on the Rams punt, and basically the question was asked on the the Greg Hill show, which is basically a claptrappers radio show, on decision to accept a penalty on the fourth quarter. So you got the ball on the 10 of the Rams, punt instead of having them punt again. His response was, to me, to give a punter another opportunity to back you up to be inside of the 10 is a huge problem. So decided to take the yards. Excuse me? What are the chances of you getting that ball punted inside of your own 10 twice in a row? I'm sorry, but that is a half-ass. That is a bad answer.
I think that's one of many bad decisions that were made in the game. Not just the one you mentioned there, Carl, but the decision to punt rather than kick a field goal. When, I know Joey Sly's struggling in the warm-up, but he's got the leg to make a field goal from the distance that we punted from. And then other situations on 4th and short in the on the edge of the red zone. It was like a 4th and 3. You're kicking a field goal. Go for it. You're at home. Be aggressive. Like, I just think that we're playing too conservative. And when you play too conservative, you set yourself up for failure because, like, you're playing not to lose. And that often turns into you end up losing because you're trying not to lose so much.
We're not good enough to play like that. We're not a good enough team to play conservative football. Yes, I understand at times you've got to, but you've got to be aggressive in these situations. Like, it's just bewildering, some of the decisions. And again, on both sides of the ball, I think, again, this week, hugely disappointed with Jalen Polk. Yet again, I don't want to keep bringing it up. I know the kid's a rookie, but again, I like just basic.
How do you false start as a receiver? Like, genuinely,
it's just exactly basic stuff, mate. Like, I just don't understand it. But that people can say, oh, like it's different in the NFL. A hard count is a hard count, regardless if you're playing in the NFL or if you're playing in college. I'm sure he's played in college stadiums that allow. Like, it was hardly like it was deafening. It's just absolutely piss poor preparation again from him. Again, Javon Baker had a really good kick return. I've seen comments from Maye today about it saying, "Oh, but he didn't do what we wanted him to do." What did you want him to do? Take it, like, return it for a touchdown? Like, I don't get it. I think.
Yeah, so look at the transcript.
We came into the season with a lot of hope that our receiver core was going to be a lot better. Is it really?
We're still stuck in the mud.
Is it really better than last year?
Apart from maybe Pop and Butte, I don't really think that.
But Butte
Henry. I'll go as far as Henry being our main. It's been our safety valve.
Henry's been very good, but again, Butte, he had some great catches, but he also had a slant on the 3rd down which went straight through his hands, which it was straight at him. He's got no excuse not to catch that. It's just, it's just frustrating. It seems to be coming on here every week at the moment, and it's always the same things. Oh, if it's not the O-line that's absolutely parted like the Red Sea. Like, and to be fair to the O-line, I think the last couple of weeks they've stood up. I thought they played well. They played decent this week, beside the one that led to the Drake May fumble, which they just completely got lost in the blitz there with the fake and the stunts. And if it's not one thing, it's the other. And I know that this is a transition season for us under a new head coach, but it's just basic football 101, and it's really frustrating to watch week in, week out, us completely shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, there wasn't much higher expectation. I did not foresee this coming with Polk and Baker based on what we saw in the preseason. And it makes things a lot more sad and frustrating that we obviously traded back in the 2nd round to gain an extra pick. We took Jalen Polk with that pick, and then we took Javon Baker with the 2nd pick we acquired. But if we'd have stuck and picked, we could have had Ladd McConkey. Now, Carl and I were massive Ladd McConkey fans.
No, please don't give me any more PTSD with Ladd McConkey, please. I had to watch him absolutely ball out on Monday Night Football against the bloody Bengals. So
this offense would have looked so much different with Ladd McConkey in it.
I don't.
100%.
I think the last 2 drafts, I value 2 fucking brilliant receivers. One of them was George Pickens. We took Tyquan Thornton, and the other one was again Lad McConkey. We took in Jalen Polk. Seems like I know what talented receivers look like.
I'm still gonna hold out hope on Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. I mean, I'm a UCF fan, so I know how good Javon Baker can be. I've seen him do it at UCF, so I know how good that guy is. And Jalen Polk done it at Washington. It's just very frustrating whether it's a mental thing, if it's in his. He seems to be very much playing in his head at the moment. I thought after he got his touchdown the week before, I thought, right, that's it, he's going to kick on. But it just seemed like it was back to square one again, and they're going to have to figure it out quickly because we're nearing the end of the year, and as it stands, especially Javon Baker, he hasn't impressed enough to even stick around.
I think
he hasn't had the opportunity.
Javon Baker, like he's this year's Keishon Boutte, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He's been doghoused for things that he's maybe done in practice, or obviously Boutte had the out of bounds against Philly in week 1 last year, but Belichick didn't really. He was inactive for most of the season, and Javon Baker's getting like 4 or 5 snaps a week. He feels like a player like similar to Boutte last year, where we were like, just play the guy and see what you got. Like he's getting no exposure on offense whatsoever in a receiver core that is very underwhelming. And it's only going to be harder next year because, we don't know what the team are going to do in the offseason. We don't know whether we'd sign T. Higgins or Chris Godwin or anyone like that. We could end up with Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan. Like, we don't know who's going to be on the team next year. So, if we do end up, drafting a receiver or signing a couple of receivers in free agency, it's going to push those guys further down the pecking order. You need to see what you have in them now. Otherwise, you're just going to end up cutting bait with them before you've seen anything. It's a bit more prominent for Polk because he's been given chances and done, not a lot with it outside of the 2 touchdowns he's had this season. He's had a very poor rookie year, but Baker's not even been on the field really. So it's just dismal. You need to see what you have in them before you make a decision on what you're doing long term.
You do. We really do. Okay. Let's get into the final play of the game because this was the one that has irked a lot of people. So this was basically the final play of the game. So Drake makes a Mario Douglas interception. Is it a miscommunication? Pop his way out of his lane. Someone has to drive into that court to keep an even distribution. The Panther attacks quarters, but he takes his route over Henry. Joe, do you want to go through this with us?
Yeah. So let's go through it. So it's just, again, it comes back to just not doing the most basic of things on the route. So on this route, he should be taking the under of Henry. So Henry should be crossing him first, and he should be coming pretty much behind him. He hasn't on this route. He's run out of lane. Drake, he's not where the quarterback is expecting him to be. Okay, I don't think it's Drake May's best decision to put it where he's put it, but I can understand, and I'm not going to criticize Drake May for trying to make a play here. It's just so frustrating. It's just basic football that we're not doing. We're not doing the basic things. And again, the one thing you need to do at any level of football is do the basics right. Run your routes. Run the route that's cool. Don't change it up. It's just frustrating.
So what was Douglas meant to do? Was he continue to carry on down, or was he meant to just split and go that way?
So if you press play on this a minute for me, mate.
I have to slow play it due to copyright.
Let's slow play it then, mate. So we slow play it from the start. So he's out here on the outside. He should be coming underneath Henry. So when I say underneath, it means basically that Henry should be in front of him when he makes his cut. But as you'll see, he's in front of Henry and he's taking it over him. So he's basically crossed his path that way, as opposed, say this is Henry here. He should be crossing him here, but he's crossed him here. And it just throws the complete route out of sync completely because he's cut at the wrong depth. His depth for a cut in there should be perhaps, I need to see the play through again, but I think maybe 7, and he's cutting at 10 11, and it just completely throws the court. He's not where the quarterback expected him to be.
No. Oh, he doesn't turn his head, does he?
No, and that's the issue. That's the issue.
I think part of the issue as well, yes, he's not cut the right point. He's not turned his head. I think it's a good anticipatory throw from Drake Maye, albeit a risky one considering the defensive setup at that point. He's put a little bit much on it, but for me, and I said this in the group chat after it happened, if that's a bigger receiver, that don't happen. And I think this is the problem when you target 5'8" receivers down the field when there's a safety there. Now, if that was Hunter Henry, I think that's a catch.
Yeah,
I think Drake's, yes, he's probably put a bit too much on it, but I think if that's a tight end or a big receiver, if that's someone like T. Higgins or Tet McMillan maybe next season, I think that's a catch. But that's the risk you take when you target small receivers on plays like that. If there's the smallest breakdown in communication or the smallest, nuance or fine point to the route that goes wrong, that's the risk you take because that ball's just going to be AML straight to the safety. So, yes, I think it's collective blame, but I think we've got to, if we're going to be sending players on routes like that, it can't be your shortest receiver. Why is Booty not the one running that? He's 6 foot. He might have caught that.
Jalen Polk. All right, I know we're just there slagging Jalen Polk off, but yeah, I agree. It's good. I think obviously your smaller receivers always usually going to be your inside route or inside route. So on this occasion, obviously we can see where he's lined up, but it just makes no sense of anything for me. I'd rather have Pop running the go there. Basically forcing the cornerback, and it then gives the safety a decision to make with his speed. The safety then you can see there's a safety here and there. The safety's got a decision to make. Does he come down to try and play, or does he go out to try and double?
It's the second pick that Drake has had targeting Pop down the field this season. Yeah. The first pick of the season against Houston, he's tried to hit Pop over the middle. He's put too much on it. And it's been picked off by, was it Jalen Petrie? I think it was that picked it off.
Yeah.
And this is the same with Cam Kinchins here. It is literally trying to get it, it's not executed properly. He's got a bit too much on it and it's just gone straight to the safety. And that's what happens. These short guys, Pop should be on a short route here. He shouldn't be having to try and stretch the field. And I think that's another decision.
And I think the only difference is if you're going to have him stretch the field, you don't have him as your inside receiver there. You have him on the outside, like I say, just basically as a decoy, basically running the go to make that deep safety, have a decision. Am I going to come down and try and play the middle of the field, or am I going to go out wide and give my cornerback on the edge a bit of protection and just double up? I think it was a good play call. I think it was obviously poorly executed on all fronts. But for me, you have Henry or you have Jalen Polk or you have Butte as your inside guy there running that route.
There was no way.
And I think again the only reason the reason again that Pop's taken his route over Henry is just due to his speed. It's quite simple. He can't break down in his route to try and get back underneath because he's already in front of him due to his speed.
And he can't get the dump off to Ramondre Stevenson out on the flat on the right hand side over because he can't see through all that.
No.
And that's a risky ball to throw over the top of the tackle anyway. So he was literally going for the home run shot, and unfortunately it backfired horrendously. Whether that was
I've got no issues with Drake Maye trying to make that play. No issues whatsoever. Yes, he's like Kieran said, overthrown it, but again, a bigger receiver there probably catches that. You can't target a 5'8" slot receiver deep down the field in pretty much double coverage. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and we've had 2 games finish like this now, haven't we? In the last few weeks, like the Tennessee game as well. That was I think that was a worse decision and throw given the time and the timeouts. And the down on that one, but that's 2. Yeah, I haven't got a problem with Drake trying to push the ball down the field for a big play. Eventually, one of those is going to be due. One of those is going to come off at some point. but we can't quite get the execution on it. I think it's more down to the receivers than it is to quarterback, because Drake's clearly got the arm talent and the accuracy to be able to hit that. And it's just that we're just not executing it well enough at the moment.
No, we're definitely not. As I said, this is a new team and new offense, but coaching wise, you would think we'd have tried to have actually been a bit more streetwise with this, but obviously not.
I don't think it was a bad play call. Again, I'm not criticising the play call there. I'm not being overly critical of Drake Maye. It was just the personnel. The personnel for me was just all wrong. Personnel was all wrong. Like you say, for me, you need to have your bigger body receiver running that inside route there, not Pop.
And this kind of begs a bigger question now, like going into the off season, like the decision the front office have got is going to be a really, really difficult one, because the likelihood is we're going to pick probably in the top 5 or 6. We're currently sat 6th in the draft order. We've got the highest amount of cap space available. So would you, I guess a question to the group and to people watching and listening, would you rather have like a bog standard average left tackle and draft someone like Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter? Or would you rather sign someone like T. Higgins and draft a left tackle? That's the biggest. It is the Jamar Chase versus Penei Sewell Cincinnati conundrum all over again.
And my biggest conundrum with T. Higgins is I think T. Higgins is a great receiver. How many times does he face double coverage? Because if he comes to the Patriots and becomes our number 1 receiver, he's going to be doubled. Right now, he's getting a lot of single coverage looks because playing in the Cincinnati team that's got Jamar Chase, who's pretty much doubled every single play. That's the big question for me is, do you throw the bag of money at T. Higgins? Can he do it as the number 1 receiver? Is there a
he's a de facto. when Jamar Chase
wouldn't want to be making the decision this offseason.
When Jamar Chase was out for that lengthy period of time, Higgins was basically the de facto number 1. He actually still managed pretty well. I think it was last season, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not doubting his talent, but it's a difficult decision. Like you say, Kieran, do you pay for the top tier left tackle and then draft and hope to pick something up in the draft, whether that be a Travis Hunter, who I think will be gone in the top 2 or 3 picks anyway, or do you take a left tackle, a rookie left tackle, and then invest the money in a T. Higgins or a Chris Godwin? It
is honestly a very hard decision, because ultimately the best way to obtain tackles is through the draft. But you're going to need younger tackles. You need someone who's going to be a linchpin at left tackle for a long time. So that could be Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell or whoever. But then equally, you get elite players at the top end of the draft. And the more I watch Ted McMillan at Arizona, the more I'm like, that guy is Batman. Like, he could literally transform the offense. And like, if we sit there and we draft the tackle and we address the receiver in maybe round 2 and we sign someone in free agency and the offense improves, because Drake is making a bad receiver core look better than what they are at the moment for me. Yeah. Like, that's no problem for me. But it will always make me wonder, like, because Cincinnati made that decision. I was of the opinion at the time that Joe Burrow was getting beaten up too much. They needed to take Penei Sewell. But they went Jamar Chase. And they went to the Super Bowl with a very shit offensive line, because Burrow was awesome, Chase was awesome, and they had Higgins as well, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. And it just makes you think that's going to be a huge, huge decision. And I think that ultimately comes down to, do we have confidence that Elliott Wolf is going to make the right one? Because we could end up with the tackle who might be fine, but then we could watch Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter go to another team and put up 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns in their rookie year. And like, we'll be thinking, well, we made the wrong decision again. So I honestly think it is a really, really hard call.
The thing is, what would you rather do?
What would you rather to make me a cup of tea? So
what would you rather do? Take Cincinnati's approach, or would you take Detroit's approach? because both Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase were in the same draft, and Detroit ended up taking Penei Sewell. They built the trenches first before they started getting the receivers, before they got the tight ends, before they got Jamar Gibbs.
They also lucked out Amon-Ra St. Brown, an elite wide receiver in round 4. Like, that is an absolute home run.
That's called getting a golden ticket. That's called getting a golden ticket in a chocolate bar.
And it's the same, like the Rams landed on their feet with Puka Nacua in round 5. Like, we just need to unearth one of them gems at some point that can come in.
They're out there.
Yeah, and you're right. That the Lions obviously had a very good offensive line, and they've added very well. Brad Holmes has done a remarkable job with that team, the way he's constructed it. And they've just added pieces like Laporta, like Gibbs to what they already had. But
I just don't trust Elliott Wolf to build. That's a winning roster. I'm sorry. I just don't trust him.
He gets one off season for me to get it right. He has one off season. The thing is, we have to spend
the money as well. Like, I think Doug Carter was saying this on this podcast earlier, the way that things are changing in a couple of years' time. We have like $150 to $200 million that we have to spend. Like, it has to be used before these changes in 2 years' time or something, where I'm not sure whether something's changing. We have to use a certain amount of cap or whatever, but that money is there to be spent. $150 million. That's an absurd amount of cap space. We had 100, right about 80 to 100 this year. And we didn't spend hardly any of it.
Do you know what I would do? I would go and get T. Higgins just for the sake of getting T. Higgins. It's either because Chris Godwin was coming off a torn ACL. We don't know how good Chris Godwin's going to be next season, coming back off an ACL injury. So, that's a risk you have to take. I would say you get T. Higgins. If Ronnie Stanley doesn't re-sign with Baltimore, I believe, I'll be going for him all day long at left tackle, because I think he would. Ronnie
Stanley.
Sorry, Kevin.
They can tag him though, can't they? Or did they tag him this off season?
Yeah, they can tag him and then trade him.
I'm pretty sure they can still tag him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be options. There's going to be Garrett Bowles. There's going to be Jedrick Wills. There's going to be like Cam Robinson with the Vikings at the moment. He's a free agent at the end of this season, Cam Robinson, and the Vikings have taken that money on because Darisaw is out for the year. Now, if Darisaw gets healthy, they're not going to want to keep 2 left tackles on big contracts on their books. So Cam Robinson will probably hit the free agent market. And then there are other players. Like I saw a guy put like Dream Patriots, like free agent class, saying, right, well, if Peppers is gone, we're going to need a big time free safety. Let's go get Javon Holland from the Dolphins. He's a free agent. Then you got Trey Smith from the Chiefs, right guard, like has played excellently for the Chiefs, but they might not be able to afford to keep him. So like we have got to go out and be aggressive in free agency, not just with the top end players, but also they need to staff the roster, build that depth. So that even like the second stringers are strong as well, so that if we get injuries, we're still competitive. They've got pieces to build around on the roster, but that is $150 million, and you'd expect in the off season, other players are going to get cut as well, and that's going to add more cap room. Contracts get restructured. You could be talking near $200 million to spend. We have to spend it.
I think for me, like if I was in Elliott Wolf's shoes, I think for me, I think the two receivers are going to be out of our reach. I think you do everything in your power to make sure that your pick is Will Campbell, because that for me is a generational talent at tackle.
Tackles don't grow on trees, and if you get a very good tackle, they'll last you 10, 15 years.
Yeah, if I'm Elliott Wolf, I think, like you say, realistically, I think we're going to be picking top 5. Let's say we're picking at 5. I think there's going to be at least 1, perhaps 2 quarterbacks go. I think the 2 receivers are going to be up there as well. I think if you're sat at 5 and Will Campbell's there, you don't pass that up.
And then all
providing you've added to the receiver room in free agency. I think free agency
exactly.
Yeah.
But
if we go into the draft and we've signed Ronnie Stanley and Jedrick Wills has gone back to right tackle like he played at Alabama. We've bookended our tackles. We're clearly taking a receiver in the top 5.
And then take McMillan is there for us.
You take McMillan, who I just think he's an absolute joke. Like he's massive.
Yeah, I like
fast.
McMillan.
Like his wingspan is ridiculous. Like he's like Batman. He's insane. Like he could be the ideal wide receiver 1 for years to come for Drake. Like he's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he would be. But knowing what Nick would probably want, he would probably want us to trade down and accumulate more picks again. You know, and I basically, and if the best time to do it was last year, but we also needed a quarterback, and the quarterback class in last year was very, very good, and this year it's getting worse by the week. It's getting worse by the week. Apart from
I will
Shedeur
be comfortable
Sanders
taking
and
any
maybe
of those guys in the top 10.
Shedeur Sanders, maybe. Shedeur Sanders, maybe, but that's
I would
about
not
it.
I would not want to be the Giants with you've just benched your Daniel Jones as your third to your third string. You're starting Tommy DeVito. You're going to have probably a top 2 pick next year. You need a quarterback. Who are you taking out of that class? Because for me, there's none that are top material.
Which is why the trade down, which is why trading down, I don't think makes much sense in this draft in particular. I think you've got to go.
I don't think there's a lot of value in trading down because there's no teams.
I mean, there's 3 positions you could go for. Okay, if say I'm not going to say the 2. If the 2 tackles have gone off the board, fine. If McMillan goes, and you're like, crap. Okay, so now you're gonna have to think long and hard. Okay, what else do we need? Oh, I know. We can't get to the quarterback. Get a pass rusher. Get an elite pass rusher.
Yeah,
because there's 3 opportunities there, and that'll be the first thing. And on the NFL's board, it will say New England will need tackle. The 3 main things New England need: tackle, receiver, pass rusher. That's what they'll put.
But then you could get baited into taking a corner, someone like Will Johnson or Ben Morrison, then have him with Gonzo for years. Like that would be ridiculous.
Will Johnson, isn't he is our Michigan or Mike? It's Michigan.
Yeah.
No, he's my Wolverine. I know he's quality. He's absolutely quality. Unfortunately, he's on a shit team this year, but I digress.
That's a Cromartie Darrell Revis level duo there, like the Jets had.
But remember, corner is quite deep in this draft, so
it is a ridiculous corner draft, and it is a ridiculous running back draft as well. Like Jeanty's going to go off the board early, but like the depth at running back is ridiculous this year. I'd take one. I genuinely like Stevenson is a fine starter, but we that can be upgraded. Gibson's not done a lot this year. Like if we can nab a gem in the middle rounds, like there are some good running backs in this year's draft.
Go get Donovan Edwards.
Take one.
Go get Donovan Edwards.
Yeah, that's a good mid-round option. 100%.
I like Donovan.
Another Michigan guy. I'm not saying this to pick all Michigan guys, but you know.
But Carl, you remember in the off-season, who was I banging the drum for that we needed to add to the team at running back? Bucky Irving. That guy is exciting to watch.
He is. Yeah. Bloody Bucks, bloody Pirates. Anyway. Right, let's carry on with the rest of the game. So on a more positive note, Christian Barmore came back and he played 20 snaps, which is just over 39% against the Rams.
It's just phenomenal to see him back, considering where he was at the beginning of the year. I just didn't. His career was in question. He was something as serious as that, but it just shows the perseverance, how fit and healthy of a guy he is as well to be able to come back from that, and also the Patriots medical staff for diagnosing it as quickly as they did and getting him seen to. And it's just great. Once Barmore's back, I think that's going to strengthen up that whole D line a lot, because for me, Christian Barmore is an elite player on that line.
Yeah. And I think as well, the same goes for once Ngakwe up to speed. We have an experienced, proven edge rusher that, yes, he's not going to wow you at 29 years old. He's probably past his best, but like he's still an effective player. Having Barmore back and adding Ngakwe, like I think that's really beneficial for the line going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Kendrick Bourne, after being benched against Chicago last week, the veteran wideout back in the mix. 35 snaps he played, just under 48%. He had a team in, he had 70 yards receiving, and he obviously got a touchdown as well. A lot better from Kendrick Bourne this week. A lot better.
For me, any wide receiver who's watched that.
Yeah, it wasn't totally consistent.
Go on, Carl.
You had rookie Jalen Polk starting next to Vacation Billy on the field. We had three receiver sets. It was Butte and Douglas and Kendrick Bourne. he was who got benched by KJ Osborne last week. He got none over Osborne, which is a good thing, and responded well. So really good thing for KB to get back there, which was all good. Patriots O-line again still suffers. They allow 47.8% pressure rate and 32% rushing success rate against the Rams. But for the first time this season, New England started the same offensive line combination consecutive weeks. So they had Lowe at left tackle, Michael Jordan at left guard, Ben Brown at center, Michael Winner at right guard, and Trey Jacobs at right tackle. The numbers suggest that Lowe and Jacobs allow the most pressure, with 6 combined quick pressures allowed in under 2.5 seconds. So not good at all. And the Rams defense also caused a strip sack fumble in the second quarter, a major play in the game, subtracting minus 5.2 expected points from the offense, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the fumble. Yeah, that was the fumble. But not thanks. Although Vidarian Lowe did get the touchdown, which was great. That was one trick up his sleeve that we didn't see from AVP. Actually, that was like, hang on, 6 personnel here. Who's being the jumbo tight end here? And it was actually Vidarian Lowe. No one saw it coming. No one did. So that was actually that was actually quite fun. But unfortunately, on this play, Vidarian Lowe just he's got his man. Hang on, I'm just trying to work out the play now.
I did like the comment in our group chat. Obviously, we've been called in Low. The colander, was it no holes in the hands? This one.
It was Jordan.
It
wasn't Low. I've just seen the replay. It wasn't Low. Low was covered man. Jordan couldn't block a tumbleweed. So yeah, he completely.
I think it was just wasn't it. It was the stunt and the and obviously
they run 2 stunts on the left hand side. So
yeah, and it just completely killed him. But yeah, I mean, I don't put too much blame on Drake Maye for that fumble. He got absolutely lit up.
Oh, he got
the fact that he managed to get back up from it. I was hoping for a tuck rule when I seen it first, and I seen the first replay. I know they spoke about it a bit on the in the broadcast. That was it. Did he bring the ball back in to make himself?
Yeah.
There's no, for me, no blame on Drake Maye for that. I mean, it's come from his blind side. He's been absolutely leveled. Again, it comes back down to the O-line not doing their job.
Yeah, and ultimately, going into next season, realistically, Onwenu out of the current line should be the only one that starts next year. Okay, yeah. Andrews is probably going to come back and play at centre, but they're doing a job for the time being. But still, in true pass sets this season, they are the lowest ranked offensive line in the NFL. We can't go into next season with Jordan, Lowe, and Jacobs. That's just
I'll be busting Layden Robinson's and move him to left guard.
For me, you can't even have them guys as your strength players. They're just not good enough.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have. Looking at next season, I probably wouldn't even have Jordan. Jordan's maybe a practice squad candidate. Maybe Jacobs the same. Lowe might be the backup swing tackle if you've got 2 new tackles, but that's probably it. The line needs revamping.
We also have Caden Wallace as well. He's come back
as soon as Caden Wallace gets back this season, I'd play him at right tackle, and as soon as Cole Strange gets back, I'd plug him in at centre. They're talking about him playing centre. Just do it straight away. Get him acclimatized to it for the rest of the season.
I don't think Cole Strange sticks around for long, to be honest. I think Cole Strange is done. I think he'll be back this year. I don't think he'll be back next year, and I don't think he should be back next year.
He was one of those picks which really did scratch ahead of everybody. Special teams loomed large with their inconsistencies again. Kicker Joey Sly had a rough warm-up, kicking into the closed end of the stadium. There was some swirling wind going in that direction. Sly and Mayo both said that that played a factor in Maye's decision to punt rather than attempt a 54-yard field goal going in that direction. And secondly, the blocked PAT was a huge play. After scoring to make it a 9-point game, it remained a 2-score game because of the block. That's an added hurdle that this team isn't equipped to overcome in its present state. This is the second week running now that special teams have let us down. When it was actually one of our main strengths. Now it's become a hindrance. Don't like that at all.
I think overall, over the course of the season, they've been pretty good. Last couple of weeks. I don't think
it's been terrible.
No, but missing the PAT really does irk me. That really irks me.
And it's a block at the end of the day, and it's one of them as well. How often do PATs get blocked? Not very often. It'd be worse if you just shanked it, left or right.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that again this year. I think he's done everything right. It was a good snap. He's kicked. It's a good kick. It's just the blocking up front wasn't good enough. I think if you look at the special teams from this season compared to last season, I think we've improved massively. Mm-hmm. I think last year our special teams was the worst I've ever seen us. And I think special teams are so important in this day and age in the NFL. I think you've seen that this year across the league.
I think it's pretty remarkable as well when you think about, we missed that PAT to make it was still a 2-score game at that point, the 9-point deficit. But with how bad we were defensively on the back end and with that missed PAT, we were still driving down the field to win the game at the end of the game. Okay, but that's still pretty remarkable. And that's because of Drake Maye.
I think Drake Maye is pretty much single-handedly carrying this team. The fact that our defense can't stop a tumbleweed, unfortunately, is really, really a problem.
I've got to say that although we buried John Jones earlier in the podcast, he did have a key breakup against the Rams that set up that final drive, and he could have fully redeemed himself had we gone and scored and won the game. But it was just unfortunately broke down. I want to see Drake lead a 2-minute winning drive now. We've had a couple. One against Tennessee, then in this game against the Rams. He's marched down the field and then got picked off both times. We need to see him lead a 2-minute drill down the field to win a game. He's got it in him.
Yep. No, I agree. Completely agree with that as well.
Agree. So moving so we're now sitting at 3-8. We're not making the playoffs, so we can finally put that to bed at long last. This game coming up on Sunday. On the road to the Miami Dolphins, a team that's in desperation mode, shall we say. They know that they need to keep on winning games. They're going to make the postseason, and we just may be the party poopers that could do it. So if anybody who's been living under a rock...
It's in Miami. It's just...
Anybody who's living under the rock, the last time we played the Dolphins, all over that Jalen Polk, non-2 feet down catch... really has still bugged our heads. But that was with Jacoby Brissett. And the defense back then against the Dolphins actually done very, very well to stifle. But then there was a wrinkle trying out, and that was, of course, no Tua Tagovailoa. We are going to be getting Tua Tagovailoa this time around in his home of Miami. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's going to be a problem, but I'd love to think that Gerard Mayer will just basically say to Gonzo, you know what your job is to do on Sunday. Mark Tyreek Hill and don't let him out of your sight.
Yeah, but it's one of them like Miami. There's been an uptick since Tua's got back. They beat the Rams and didn't score a lot of points, but last week, they put 34 points on. Achan is well and truly taken the lead in the backfield now, and just seems like he's going to rip off a big play at any point. And as much as Tyreek Hill's had a pretty poor season, but last couple of weeks he's picked up. But I think the biggest thing for Miami is Jalen Waddle has done nothing all season. I was looking at his stat line earlier because I was thinking about what to do with him in fantasy in one league. He took 1 touchdown all season. The guy is getting 40 yards a week. But this will be the game where he'll probably go off. And they had Jonnu Smith had 109 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns the other day. They just seem to find things, and Tua's cooking 3 touchdown passes. The game's in Miami late in the year. I just don't see us winning this game. We struggle there at the best of times.
It's exactly what I was about to say. I never even go back to the Brady heyday. I never ever had hope going into Miami. It was just one of them games every year that we just never seemed to not turn up. It's just, I don't know. I hate playing down in Miami. I just don't like it. We don't play well down there. I'm not expecting it to change this week.
No, we don't play particularly well, but that was with when we had Brady under center, and he said in his autobiography one of his worst places to go was down in Miami because of the humidity, because of the heat. They weren't accustomed to it, and so on. I'll have some hope for this game, but I don't think I'm going to be predicting us to beat them because I just think that something always happens down in Miami. So I'm going to make the state and go. I'm probably going to say 24. I'm going to say 24-20 Miami. I'm probably going to say I think we are going to score, but I think defensively, I just think we're not strong enough to manhandle this. I mean, if we manage to stop Achan, then it might get interesting. But they've got a track team as receivers on there, so we've got to be on our cues. So go on, Joe.
28-17 Miami. I think Drake Maye, will put up points. I don't think their defense is great. I mean, our offense isn't either. I just think and it's really bad to say, I just got no faith in our defense right now to keep anyone out of the end zone. We're not even a bend don't break defense at the moment. We're just a bend and snap one, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I agree with Joe in the sense that I don't think defensively they're very good. We had our chance to beat them earlier in the season. Drake Maye should have played in that game. That should have really been his debut, and we would have won that game, I think, if Drake Maye had have played. But unfortunately, we lost to Snoop Huntley because Jacoby Brissett couldn't really move the ball. But yeah, we're on the road. Miami have started to click again the last couple of weeks. I think we can score some points because defensively they're very good, as I just said. So I'm going 27-20 Miami. I just don't see us picking up the win here. I think it'd be a real surprise. It's a place we notoriously struggle. They've got so many options on offense, and yeah, we're not going to be able to keep all of them out. So
the only thing is that Miami are in a no margin room forever in their circumstances. They're still trying to fight to get into the postseason. I think maybe one bad loss, and it could actually really hinder them for the rest of the season. So this is a game where New England was like, let's just go in there and play our own game. If they make a mistake, we punish them for it because they know that they've got to come out swinging.
We're in such a difficult situation now in terms of our record and where we are because, don't get me wrong, I hate losing. I would love to win some games, a few more games between now and the end of the season. But we need to have eyes on next year now. We need to have eyes on the draft.
Yeah, put it this way.
One or two more wins with how the NFL's been this year, you could be picking 10th, 11th, or 12th.
Put it this way. I think if we don't win against Miami, or we don't beat the Colts next week, I don't think we're going to win a game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think
because we've got to play the Bills twice. The Cardinals are on fire, and the Chargers are just now dismantling anyone and everyone in their path now. So it just looks bleak now for us if we're going to get another win. So my floor for 5 wins really has hit the floor part of the
only way I think we get to 5 wins is, like you said, I don't think we're going to win this weekend. We beat the Colts, and then Arizona have one of their really weird off days where they go from looking like a half decent team to just terrible. And they have these weird, their performances and their level fluctuates so much, and they're just so inconsistent. So yes, we'll go into that game as underdogs, but I wouldn't be shocked if we won that because they do have the tendency to lay an egg every now and then, and plus their defense is not very good, so there'll be an opportunity to score points on them. It's literally Arizona and Indianapolis are the 2 winnable games left on the schedule. Earlier in the season, I thought, well, we could beat the Chargers, but they've definitely picked it up a notch the last few weeks. So I can't see us winning that.
I think the only one I could see us winning is perhaps the last Bills game, depending on where they are. if they need to, because I think that's Bills. It's the last game of the season, isn't it? So it's like,
Yeah.
if they've already tied up the number 1 seed or number 2 seed, are they realistically, especially number 2, if they are number 2, are they going to play their starters going into that? If they're locked in, it's a tough one, especially if they've got a wild card game the following week.
Well, the thing is, though, is that after them beating the Chiefs last week, they're not only one game back on the Chiefs, but they now hold the tiebreaker over them. So if the Chiefs lose and the Bills win, the Bills got to keep on. If that's a tiebreaker going into the last game of the season, you bet your bottom dollar the Bills not resting their starters.
100%. I think the Chiefs have got a bit of an easier run in. I think they've got the Raiders, who are just absolutely trash.
Yeah, but they've got the Steelers, they've got the Texans, they've still got to play the Chargers, they've still got to play the Broncos again. Let's just say the Broncos ran them close.
I didn't realize
Chargers have ran them close, so I wouldn't count them.
Didn't realize they had that difficult of a run in.
I could see them losing to the Chargers and the Broncos easy, the way they've played recently. I mean, they've got a bit of a gimme this week. They're playing the Panthers, but the Bills are on bye, I think, this week. So that's going to give KC another 2-game leg up, but yeah, they'll be there or thereabouts, won't they? I thought the Bills might regress this season, but they haven't, which is credit to them, really.
Anyway,
as long as Baltimore don't go the whole way,
no credit to the Bills. Fuck the Bills.
No credit to anybody in the AFC East. No credit whatsoever.
Should we mention the Jets before we go? That was funny, wasn't it?
It just made the one thing that always puts a smile on my face is that on another down year for us, what was supposed to be a positive for the Jets, and the Jets have just jets it up again, and it's so good to see.
It's like that. It's like that The Office meme, isn't it? Where was it Michael, who's the one with the long hair, saying this is the Patriots' worst season in God knows how many years. And then next to him is like the board director or something, saying this is the best year we've had in 25 years, most optimism we've had in 25 years, and yet we both got the same record.
That's what happens when you go in. It's what happens when you go and get a narcissistic, absolute egomaniac like Aaron Rodgers and let him have full control, because Aaron Rodgers has had the control over that roster about who's coming on an offense, and they absolutely fucking suck. And it's so fun to watch. It's just so fun to watch.
They are the gift that keeps on giving. They are the biggest meme in the NFL right now. I just cannot believe for the life of me. They fire Robert Saleh and they've not won a game since. So that decision was great, wasn't it? And then Joe Douglas, who genuinely has done a good job with that team. The players he has acquired for that team has been outstanding. He's drafted outstanding, aside of Zach Wilson.
Where's apart from the quarterback? Hang on.
And they cited that he was out of contract at the end of the season, and they said the failure to establish the future at the quarterback position was the reason behind it. Okay, Zach Wilson didn't pan out. That was a miss, but
you paid
what happens.
Stupid money for a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was baited into that by ownership as well.
100%. That's it.
So Joe Douglas, this is, I've got a list here of who he drafted, or the best players he drafted: Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Will McDonald, Braylon Allen, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Carter II.
Yep, he's a good.
He's a good scout. He's a very good GM. Very good GM. And I just wonder, because there was I think it was yesterday, I believe, there was talk of Aaron Rodgers saying that he was going to come back in 2025 and so on. And I think something caught word of Joe Douglas. So it was maybe we'll have to see what happens. And I think Aaron Rodgers got wind of that and has probably said, someone in higher office has got to go. Once again, you have let the prisoner run the asylum.
Who realistically, and again with the egomaniac that Aaron Rodgers is, who's going to want to take that job? Because I can guarantee you, there's not going to be many big names out there who are going to be jumping at the chance to go to the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, because they know the drama it's going to entail.
You know what will happen, don't you? Can I tell you what's going to happen?
I think you're going to say the same thing that's on my brain.
Go on.
Dallas Cowboys. That's all I'll say.
No. What you
Okay.
mean, Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, it'll get sacked. It'll get fired by Jerry
Yeah.
Jones, and yeah, he'll go to join with Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
and the Jets.
And they will continue to be terrible because he's not a
Yep.
very good head coach.
No.
As we just proved.
Now, the job will be desirable because of the roster. I mean, Carl, you mentioned there's some other players that Joe Douglas has got, like, that has obtained. Like, you think about, like, Vera Tucker, he brought in. He drafted Olu Fashanu, Joe Tippmann at centre. He signed Tyron Williams. He's put everything around Aaron Rodgers. Everything around Aaron Rodgers, and they still suck. So I don't think he could have done any more, to be honest. That roster is massively underperforming. And, like, you know, I've been in a professional sports environment, and toxic cultures can be killers. And I think there's a toxic losing culture in that locker room and deep rooted into the organization. And I think that comes from ownership. So I think that's a huge problem. Like, the owner needs to set up, and Aaron Rodgers needs to retire.
Which is why Woody Johnson's probably flying back over to the UK to be ambassador. And getting his brother taken back in charge. So yeah, wonderful.
Another failure attached to our government.
As soon as Donald Trump gets endorsed, that's when Woody Johnson will come back to the UK, because that's the whole point of it being there. But listen, we're not going to talk about the stinking New York Jets. This is a Patriots podcast at the end of the day. We just thought we'll add our 2 cents that, well, you still suck. Anyway, that's the end of our show, guys. We're getting on out of there. Thank you to Jade. Thank you to Joe. Thank you to Kieran. Thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. Make sure you smash the like button on your way out. You hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Tell all your friends. Follow us on all our social media platforms, and follow our podcast on Spotify and on the Sports Social Network as well. And if you want to also, make sure you also follow us on our new page on Instagram as well. The link to the show will be posting in the next 10-15 minutes or so we'll get that sorted for you. We'll be back next week for a review of the Miami Dolphins game. Hopefully we'll have the entire squad back. No, Nick's not available for the next 2 weeks, so it's going to be...
I'm in Nashville, so I'm not here next week.
You're in Nashville, let's just hope I've got Kieran, DJ, and JD on hand for this one. So thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. Good night. God bless. Go Patriots. Good night.